to give us his reaction on the latest with regards to the Iran-US tensions. Mr. Jeenah, welcome. This is The Globe. You're live. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now Iran has denied the Ukrainian plane crash cover-up, but such denials and lies will do very little to ward off the condemnation against the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei and his regime. And now Iranians are now calling for his head. They are now calling him to go. So will this be the end of the road for him?
Well, firstly, I'm not sure that we should be as convinced that these are lies. But secondly, no, this is not the end of the road for him. I mean, a few thousand protesters on the streets in a population of 80 million people. Clearly, people have grievances, and the shooting down of the plane has been taken very personally by many Iranians, particularly because the majority of the passengers were Iranian themselves. However, this is certainly not going to bring down the Iranian government and not going to get rid of Khamenei.
Well, the lies or the untruths, as you would like us to put it, about the air disaster have, of course, eroded the authorities' moral fibre. And this couldn't come at a very wrong time, especially for the authorities as the country heads to the elections next month. So do you think Iranians will sabotage these elections?
Well, firstly, again, I'm not sure that I would refer to them either as lies or untruths. It's unclear that there was deliberate kind of manipulation of the truth. Iranians are claiming that they were investigating and therefore they didn't know that it was shot down until they made the announcement, or just before they made the announcement. So whatever the case is, no, I don't think that that it's going to jeopardize the elections. As I said, it's a substantial number of people that are out on the streets protesting, but it's still a small number of people. We saw millions of people last week mourning the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. The numbers that we're seeing on the streets yesterday are pretty small compared to that. We saw bigger protests a month and a half ago, in fact. So, no, I don't think that this is going to disrupt the elections in any way. Many of the people that are on the streets at the moment will likely go and vote. They're angry now for this particular thing. Let me just say also that, much, I suppose, like South Africa, Iran sees protests or experience protests virtually every day. What we in South Africa might call service delivery protests happen every day in Iran, or almost every day in Iran. It's only some of these protests that actually make the news, like the one yesterday. All of these protests put together do not mean necessarily that elections will be disrupted or that the government's going to fall.
Now, we've seen Iranian President Hassan Rouhani signing a bill or a memorandum that deemed the Pentagon and all its subsidiaries as terrorist organizations. So will this at all have any repercussions on the United States, if at all? Or is this simply a ploy by Iran, to fend off, or rather to fight off the United States, and simply shooting from the hip?
I suppose the Iranians would say this is symbolic. I mean, in some ways, it's just silly, really. I mean, it's as silly as the United States placing sanctions on Khamenei. I don't think he's ever been to the United States. He has no plans to go to the United States. He has no assets in the United States. At best, it's symbolic, and so is this kind of move. I'm pretty sure that the Americans will laugh it off as much as the Iranians laughed off those sanctions on Khamenei. It really doesn't mean anything.
And speaking of Iranians laughing off the United States, we've seen President Trump tweeting that he's actually with the Iranian people, and that he urged them not to kill the innocent Iranians. Now, the Iranians, of course, saying that he was just shedding crocodile tears. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just Trump performing. By the way, he tweeted that both in English and in Persian. And this, a week after he had threatened to blow up 51 or 52 Iranian cultural sites, a week after he threatened all kinds of Armageddon against the Iranian people. I don't think that the Iranians really take Trump seriously with this kind of thing. No one really believes that he has any sense of solidarity with the Iranian people. Iranian people, many Iranians have legitimate and genuine grievances. The plane downing is the latest of those, but there are other grievances. Some of them to the fact that they're suffering under 41 years of sanctions imposed on them by the United States. Other grievances have to do with what they see as a lack of democracy from the government. These are legitimate grievances, and they need to be aired. But I don't think that Iranians are foolish enough to believe that Trump really cares for themselves or their rights.
All right, Mr. Jeenah, your line is not the best there, but thank you so much for your insights. Much appreciated. That was Naeem Jeenah, the Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Centre, giving us his reaction and reflections on the latest with regards to the US-Iran war.
That's where we leave it for now. We'll be back with more news at the top of the hour.